الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. فإن سمي الراوي وانفرد راو واحد بالرواية عنه فهو مجهول العين كالمبهم إلا أن يوثقه غير من ينفرد به عنه على الأصح، وكذا من ينفرد عنه إذا كان متأهلا لذلك، أو إن روى عنه اثنان فصاعدا ولم يوثق فهو مجهول الحال وهو المستور. وقد قبل روايته جماعة بغير قيد وردها الجمهور، والتحقيق أن رواية المستور ونحوه مما فيه الاحتمال لا يطلق القول بردها ولا بقبولها، بل يقال هي موقوفة إلى استبانة حاله كما جزم به إمام الحرمين، ونحوه قول ابن الصلاح في من جرح بجرح غير مفسر. So earlier Ibn Hajar rahmallah explained two reasons on how a person remains unknown. But the first reason why a person is unknown is because people are referring to him by names which he is not commonly known by. And the second reason is divided into various types. So at times a person's name is not taken at all. People will just say that حدثنا شيخ or أخبرنا رجل, so the name is not taken at all. But then there are times when a person's name is taken. Now when the name of a person is taken, maybe because he narrated so few narrations, he only has one student. So if he only has one student, then this is what Ibn Hajar rahmallah is discussing here. So he says that if the name of the narrator is taken, now although he uses the word rawi here, technically it would have been more accurate for him to say al-marwi anhu, because if the name of the one who is narrating from is taken, that's what al-Malqani rahmallah says. So the name is being taken, but it's only this one particular person who is narrating from him, then this is majhulul ayn. So this is the definition that Ibn Hajar rahimahullah has given for majhulul ayn. However, some essential clauses are omitted here because the basis of all of this here is from Allama Khatib rahimahullah. And we have quoted previously that Allama Khatib rahimahullah he has explained it as al-majhūl 'inda ashab al-hadith wa kullu man lam yashtahir bi talab al-'ilm fi nafsihi. So that's one clause, that people don't know him to be a student of hadith. وَلَا عَرَفَهُ الْعُلَمَاء بِهِ. And likewise the ulama of hadith don't know him. وَمَنْ لَمْ يُعْرَفْ حَدِيثُهُ إِلَّا مِنْ جِهَةِ رَاوٍ وَاحِدٍ. What's that? So besides not being known as a student of ilm, there is only one person who is narrating from him. Hence, Allama Munawi rahmallah has added these clauses and he says, وَلَمْ يَشْتَهِرْ بِنَفْسِهِ بِطَلَبِ الْعِلْمِ وَلَا بِحِرْفَةِ الْعُلَمَاءِ وَلَا يُعْرَفُ حَدِيثُهُ إِلَّا مِنْ جِهَتِهِ فَهُوَ مَجْهُولُ الْعَيْنِ. So what's the definition of a majhulul ayn? That when you read all of this here and understand that the basis is from Allama Khatib, then you would understand that even this definition which Shaykh Nuruddin Itr is giving in the footnotes is not totally complete and it's not 100% accurate. Because he's just saying, مَنْ عُرِفَ اسْمُهُ لَكِنْ لَمْ يَعْرِفُهُ عُلَمَاءُ الْحَدِيثِ إِلَّا بِرِوَايَةِ وَاحِدٍ عَنْهُ. But the more a correct way would be like what Allama Munawi rahmallah has said, that he himself is not known to be a student of hadith. He's not, the ulama of hadith don't know him, and there is only one person who narrates from him. Three clauses, that means, that is the definition of majhulul ayn. So now you understand how all of this here is linked. That earlier, when explaining the second reason, Ibn Hajar rahmallah already discussed briefly about majhulul ayn. And he explained that it's the second reason for the narrator being unknown or being majhul. He explained that the person narrates a little, and due to that he has minimal students. So little students he has that there's only one student who narrates from him. So when a narrator is unknown and he only has this one person narrating from him, then he is called majhulul ayn. Now to further prove that this is part of what was mentioned there in the beginning of the second type, on the previous page, al-amru thani anna rawi qad yakunu muqillan min al-hadith fala yakthuru al-akhdhu anhu. We find that Mullah al-Qari, he explains this here and he said, وَهَذَا أَحَدُ قِسْمَيِ الْمُقِلِّ مِنَ الْحَدِيثِ الَّذِي أَشَارَ إِلَيْهِ هُنَاكَ بِقَوْلِهِ وَلَوْ سُمِّيَ. In that paragraph you can see there he said, وَقَدْ صَنَّفُوا فِيهِ الْوَحْدَانُ وَهُوَ مَنْ لَمْ يَرْوِي عَنْهُ إِلَّا وَاحِدٌ وَلَوْ سُمِّيَ. So he took the name, he mentioned, even if the person's name is taken. So this shows that this sentence here is part of what was mentioned there, and we have explained that when we were doing that paragraph last week Saturday. Actually, on that note also, you know that I told you about Jabbar al-Ta'i, that Allama Khatib rahmallah mentioned him after this very statement as an example of those who were not known to be in the field of hadith. And so he took the name of Jabbar al-Ta'i, and Imam Muslim rahimahullah, he added him in that book which Imam Ibn Hajar quoted there, فَمِمَّنْ جَمَعَهُ Muslim. So that clearly shows that Jabbar al-Ta'i, his name was supposed to come under that paragraph. But guess what? If you go to Qada al-Watr, you'll see that here Allama al-Afqani cites his name as an example here under this paragraph. So it shows that this paragraph is directly linked. He said, Mithaluhu Jabbar al-Ta'i, the very first example he took, it's on page 1185. So that also proves that this is directly linked to what was mentioned there. Not even linked, it's part of what was mentioned there. So Ibn Hajar rahmallah is explaining that Majhūl al-Ayn is someone whose name is taken and only one person narrates from him, and besides that he's not known to be a student of hadith, etc. Because only one student is narrating from him, he remains unknown. Like in this here, Al-Majaziri rahmallah said, Majhūl al-Ayn kullu man lam ya'rifu al-ulama wa lam yu'raf hadithuhu illa min jihati rawin wahidin. That only one person is narrating and no one else knows him. So now Ibn Hajar rahmallah discusses the ruling, and he says kal mubham. So when he says kal mubham, the tashbiyah is that the ruling will be as the same as mubham, ay fil hukmi. يعني فلا يقبل حديث مجهول العين كالمبهم. Just like how we do not accept because earlier he mentioned ولا يقبل حديث المبهم ما لم يسمى. So just as we do not accept the narration of a mubham when a narrator says that someone told me, or a sheikh told me, or so-and-so told me, if he doesn't take the name of the person, if he just says حدثني فلان or أخبرني شيخ or أنبأني رجل, then we cannot accept the narration. So just as we could not accept the narration there, even though a name is taken, but we don't know any further details about this person, and therefore the narration will have to be rejected. Ibn Hajar rahmallah, however, he mentions now two exceptions. So that you have only one person narrating from him, the narration will be rejected. That's the general ruling. But now there are two exceptions. What are those two exceptions? إِلَّا أَن يُوَثِّقَهُ غَيْرُ مَن يَنْفَرِدُ بِهِ عَنْهُ عَلَى الْأَصَحِّ. So that's the first. And then the second is وَكَذَا مَن يَنْفَرِدُ عَنْهُ إِذَا كَانَ مُتَأَهِّلًا لِذَلِكَ. So the first exception is that you have only this one person who is narrating from that person who is unknown. So, but you have another scholar who is authenticating that person. So the person who is authenticated he did not narrate from him, because a person does not necessarily have to narrate from every person that he approves from. Probably that person could have been in a totally different region, or maybe he could have already passed away. So you have only this one person narrating, and you have another different scholar who is approving of him. In that case, you could accept the narration. So that's the first exception. With regard to this here, Allama Qasim rahmallah says, هذا اختيار ibn al-Qattan, that this here is Ibn al-Qattan rahmallah is mentioned, the siyam. But obviously, when Ibn Hajar rahmallah just said, أي يوثقه غير من ينفرد به. So he's just mentioning it means that anyone else could have approved of him. So Allama Qasim clarifies, there is not just anyone. وَقَيَّدَ الْمُوَثَّقَ بِكَوْنِهِ مِنْ أَئِمَّةِ الْجَرْحِ وَالتَّعْدِيلِ. It's necessary that he's a competent scholar of Jarh and Ta'dil. It's a scholar and an imam who is approving of him. So you have one adil person, because there's a difference. Any adil person can narrate a hadith. But in order to comment on a narrator, a person has to be an imam. And this is something which we always also mention. You know, people, they like to criticize in today's times, and then they use the whole science of Jarh wa Ta'dil to justify the criticism. So it's wasn't everybody's cup of tea to just go and criticize. It was only that selected few, that handful of, in fact it's Shaykh Abdul Fattah Bogota, you know, the kitabs which is written on it, that it was only those scholars who were authorized to comment and to pass a verdict and a grade on a narrator. So Ibn al-Qattan rahmallah is saying that you have this one adil person who is narrating from him, but besides this adil person narrating from him, you have another imam who has commented on him and approved of him. So in that case, then you will be able to accept a narration which he narrates. So that's the first exclusion. And then the second exclusion is وَكَذَا مَن يَنْفَرِدُ عَنْهُ إِذَا كَانَ مُتَأَهِّلًا لِذَلِكَ. Or maybe the person himself, the person who is narrating himself, maybe he is an imam of Jarh and Ta'dil. So being an imam of Jarh and Ta'dil, he narrates, he is competent enough to pass a verdict on a narrator, and he also narrates. So here you can see that the way Ibn Hajar rahmallah could have phrased this here, he could have just said that an imam narrates from him and approves of him. Or here if he's saying that for the second clause, for that clause, he just said غَيْرُ مَن يَنْفَرِدُ بِهِ. And here he's saying إِذَا كَانَ مُتَأَهِّلًا لِذَلِكَ. So he's stipulating this clause here, إِذَا كَانَ مُتَأَهِّلًا لِذَلِكَ. So that then raises the objection that why is he stipulating the clause إِذَا كَانَ مُتَأَهِّلًا لِذَلِكَ for the second scenario, and he didn't mention it in the first scenario. So Allama Qasim rahmallah mentioned this in Al-Qawl al-Mubtakar, that قد يقال ما الفرق بين من ينفرد عنه وبين غيره حتى يشترط تأهل المنفرد للتوثيق دون غير المنفرد. So this here is that basically the answer is that in both cases, whether he mentioned it or not, it's the same, because he's saying that it's like a kere ittifaqi. So like what Allama al-Qani says, that بأن يكون من الحفاظ المطلعين المتقنين والظاهر أنه لا كبير فائدة في هذا باعتبار خصوص هذا الموضع، إذ كل تعديل أو تجريح لا بد فيه من أهلية المعدل والمجرح. He's saying that this here is just like the code which he mentioned here, but it's not a code which he serves any purpose. Like if you tell another person, oh, you who can see. So that means every person can generally see, so it doesn't serve any purpose. So like that you get some quyud which are placed in a sentence which does not serve a purpose. So it's just like mentioned in passing. So in the same way, here that it's automatically ought to be understood that when you're talking of Jarh and Ta'dil, then it has to be an imam who will comment. No one else can pass any verdict on a narrator besides an imam. So therefore, even if you say a person, or when you are talking, you say a narrator is mentioned, it will be understood by the audience that you are referring to an imam, because it is generally known that only an imam will pass a verdict on a narrator. So that is one way you could say that Ibn Hajar rahmallah mentioned it, إِذَا كَانَ مُتَأَهِّلًا لِذَلِكَ. Alternatively, it could be that Ibn Hajar rahmallah specifically mentioned it here to stress upon it. Why? Because at times you even have those who are adil narrators, and they were not imams. So they were not authorized to comment on a narrator. But at the time of narrating, they would mention that the person is trustworthy. Like maybe the audience were there, it's the students there. So maybe the people who he was talking to, they didn't know about this narrator. So he says that حدثني فلان وهو ثقة. So although this person here who's saying حدثني فلان وهو ثقة, he's just adil, but he's not an imam. So he was not authorized to comment. So because it's so frequently found, so therefore Ibn Hajar rahmallah is stressing upon it that you have to make sure that this person here is muta'ahil, he is deserving, he is competent enough to pass a grade and a ruling on a narrator. So this is what Shaykh Ibrahim al-Ahim he says. وَإِنَّمَا فَعَلَ ابْنُ حَجَرَ هَذَا فِيمَا يَظْهَرُ لِتَوْثِيقِ الرَّاوِي لِمَنْ يَرْوِي عَنْهُ فَيَقُولُ الرَّاوِي حَدَّثَنَا فُلَانٌ وَكَانَ رَجُلٌ صَادِقٌ. So you can see that they mention like this here. وَحَدَّثَنِي فُلَانٌ قَالَ حَدَّثَني فُلَانٌ, and then وَأَثْنَى عَلَيْهِ خَيْرًا وَنَحْوَ ذَلِكَ. وَلَا يَكُونُ الرَّاوِي الْمُوَثَّقُ مِمَّنْ يُعْتَمَدُ قَوْلُهُ فِي الْجَرْحِ وَالتَّعْدِيلِ. So that person who is narrating, he himself, he could be an adil narrator, he could be a narrator of Sahih al-Bukhari. People will accept his Ḥadīth, but he is not authorized to pass a ruling on a narrator. So the reason why he passed that ruling is just so that his audience could know that I'm quoting to you from someone who is reliable. مع كثرة الإشكالات في التوثيق الذي يأتي في أثناء الأسانيد، وذلك من جهة تعديل قائله وتحديد جهة الثناء على الراوي. وأما توثيق من لم يروى عنه فالغالب أن يأتي من ناقد معتبر لأن النقاد هم الذين يحكمون على الرواة وإن لم يروا عنهم وهم الذين يسألون عن الرواة. It's only those who are nuqad, who are known to be prominent imams. They were authorized to pass a verdict on a narrator. Nevertheless, so this is the ruling which Ibn Hajar passed. He said that it's called mubham. It will be rejected, but there will be these two exceptions. And he gets this here from Ibn al-Qattan rahmallah, as we have explained. But besides these, there are other views as well. Allama Qasim rahmallah mentioned في مجهول العين 5 أقوال, that there are actually 5 different views. صحح بعضهم عدم القبول. So the 5 views which you have with regards to Majhūl al-Ain. So if you have a person who is not known to be involved in the science of Hadith, and neither do the scholars of Hadith know him, and he only has one student, then there are 5 views with regards to him. The first view is that in all cases, his narration will be rejected. So whether you have another person who is even making tawfiq of him or not, in all cases it will be rejected because he only has one student. So this here, Imam Darqutni rahimahullah, in his Sunan, there's one place there where he said, أن الخبر المرفوع الذي فيه ذكر بني المخاض لا نعلمه رواه إلا خشف بن مالك. They're saying that with regards to this person here, خشف بن مالك. So, an Ibn Mas'ud. Now this person, خشف بن مالك, he says, وهو رجل مجهول وَلَمْ يَرْوِي عَنْهُ إِلَّا زَيْدَ بْنَ جُبَيْرٍ. So you can see it is majhul, meaning majhulul ayn. He only has one person who narrates from him, and that is Zayd ibn Jubair. So now look at the verdict which Imam Darqutni rahmallah passed. وَأَهْلُ الْعِلْمِ بِالْحَدِيثِ لَا يَحْتَجُّونَ بِخَبْرٍ يَنْفَرِدُ بِرِوَايَتِهِ رَجُلٌ غَيْرُ مَعْرُوفٍ. That scholars of hadith, they don't need these kind of narrations. وَإِنَّمَا يُثْبِتُ الْعِلْمِ عِنْدَهُمْ بِالْخَبْرِ إِذَا كَانَ رُوَّاتُهُ عَدْلًا مَشْهُورًا. That it must be known in prominent people. أو رجل قد ارتفع اسم الجهالة عنه. In the next paragraph we'll do how a person will no more be considered as majhul. So that's the first view, that in all circumstances you will reject it. The second is that in all circumstances you will accept it. So there were those who attributed this here to the Hanafis, but it was clearly wrong, as we will soon explain inshallah. There are lots of laws and conditions and clauses for Hanafis. Then the third view is that a person maybe is not known in the field of Hadith, but maybe he is known for his piety, maybe he's a great warrior, he's known for his bravery, maybe he's known for his honesty. So people don't regard him as a muhaddith. He's not known as a muhaddith, but he's known to be a pious person. So in that case, they're saying that even if he is not a muhaddith, but he's known for his piety, he's there every morning from 2 a.m. in the masjid, he's praying tahajjud, he's fasting every day, everybody knows him for his piety, so you can accept his narration. But here you can see that he's known for something, he's known for his piety. Therefore in an-Nukatul Wafiyah, on volume 1, page 626, Allama Baqai rahimahullah expressed astonishment that how could they add this here under the category of majhul? Because yes, he is majhul in the field of hadith, he's not known in the field of hadith, but he is known ultimately, he is known for his piety. Nevertheless, that's the third view. Then the fourth view is that if one person made ta'dil, and even if it's the narrator himself, then it will be accepted, and this is the view which Ibn Hajar rahimahullah has mentioned here. And then the fifth view is that if the person narrating was generally very particular to only narrate from reliable people, and you heard scholars like this here, like for example Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi, Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan, Imam Malik rahimahullah also, but although there are a few cases where it was found that he narrated from those who are not reliable. So if it's a person who is generally, he only narrates from reliable people, and thereafter he is the only person narrating from this one narrator and no one else is narrating, then we can accept it, because we know that the amount of caution he would take to only narrate from a reliable person. So there's tawfiq zimniya, that by the way you can understand that the narrator is being sanctioned and approved. So this is the 5 views which you have. Now generally when scholars of hadith use the word majhul, when they use the word majhul alone, so then they would refer to this category, majhulul ayn. Now Ibn Hajar rahimahullah moves on to discuss majhulul hal or mastur. So you see, if you take that muqil, anna rawi qad yakunu muqillan, that al-amru thani anna rawi qad yakunu muqillan. So now these are 2 subcategories that he has. There are very few people who narrate from him. So few that only one person narrates from him, or maybe 2 or more narrate from him. So it's like, you can make like a whole table like that there. So you have 2 or more narrating, that is considered as majhulul hal. So he says, أو إن روى عنه اثنان فصاعدا وَلَمْ يُوَثَّقْ فَهُوَ مَجْهُولُ الْحَالِ. That if you have 2 or more people narrating from him, but no one ever made tawthiq of him, we just know and we find that people are narrating from him, but we can't find any scholar ever saying that huwa thiqatun. We open the books of Rijal, we cannot find the comments of any senior scholar approving of him, but we find people narrating, 2 or more people narrating from him, and then that will be considered, he's still majhul. But now his identity is known. The people we can see, we already now can get an idea, okay, he was in this era. Maybe it's only the Kufiyin who are narrating from him, so we can even know that he was in this area. So we're getting, we come to know a little bit more about him. But his condition, whether he was truthful or not, that still remains unknown. So therefore, he is considered as majhulul hal. Now the main source in all the books of ulumul hadith, in all the books on mustalahat and usul, in which you read, the main source of this statement here is from Allama al-Dhuhali rahimahullah, the teacher of Imam Bukhari rahimahullah. So Allama Khatib rahimahullah quoted him. Now look at his exact words, that his son Yahya, he says that I heard my father saying, that Muhammad ibn Yahya al-Dhuhali, that إذا روى عن المحدث رجلان ارتفع عنه اسم الجهالة. So this is what he mentioned, that when you have 2 people who are narrating, then we can almost say that that person is unknown, because like we said, that now you can get an idea on who that person is. But then Allama Khatib rahmallah commented and he said, yes, he's only no more considered as majhul, but that does not now necessarily mean that he is adil. So he says, إِلَّا أَنَّهُ لَا يَثْبُتُ لَهُ حُكْمُ الْعَدَالَةِ بِرِوَايَتِهَا عَنْهُ. That it doesn't mean now that he is reliable. It just means that he is no more. Because, and he says, وَقَدْ زَعَمَ قَوْمٌ, so probably here he's referring to Imam Dar Qutni rahmallah. He said, وَقَدْ زَعَمَ قَوْمٌ أَنَّ عَدَالَتَهُ تُثْبُتُ بِذَلِكَ. Because Imam Dar Qutni rahmallah, he said, مَنْ رَوَى عَنْهُ ثِقَةً فَقَدْ ارْتَفَعَتْ جَهَالَتُهُ وَثَبَتَتْ عَدَالَتُهُم. So he's saying that now he's considered as adil. So Allama Khatib clarified that no, he's still not considered as adil. All that we are saying is he's no more majhul. But we still don't know whether he was a liar, whether he had a good memory. We don't know anything about him. So the author mentioned here that this, he's saying that 2 people narrated from him. You can see he said, أَوْ إِنْ رَوَى عَنْهُ إِثْنَانِ. So he doesn't mention the status of these 2 people who are narrating from him. However, Allama ibn Salah rahmallah, he put the condition and he said it's 2 adil people who are narrating from him. Then only, because if you have a liar, so you can have 100 liars narrating from someone. In that case, he will still be even worse than majhulul ayn. So he will not then be considered even as majhulul hal. But if you have 2 reliable people, so that was, and again here you can say that maybe Ibn Hajar rahmallah felt that it's obvious that he's referring to reliable people, because if it is a kadhab, then everybody knows that you will not even accept the narration. So Allama ibn Salah rahmallah, he stipulated the condition that it has to be 2 adil people who are narrating. Likewise, Allama Khatib rahmallah, he also said that it must be 2 people who are adil and they're also known to be in this field, that they are known to be in the field of hadith. And he says, وَالْمُصَنِّفُ أَهْمَلَ ذَلِكَ, that, and the Musannif rahmallah, he has omitted that, he didn't mention it. So like we say, that there is this, Allama al-Qari rahmallah gives the indication, the interpretation, that وَيُمْكِنُ مَنْعُ الْإِهْمَالِ بِأَنَّ غَيْرَ الْعَدْلِ كَالْعَدَمِ. That when a person is not adil, then he's like al-adam. So therefore, he uses a nice phrase here, and he says, وَلَيْسَ بَعْدَ الْإِصْبَاحِ احتياج إلى مصباح. Once you already got light, now you no more need to know where the lamp is. So you got your light, your objective is fulfilled. So in the same way, that when you're saying that the two people, everyone in this field will know that he's referring to, he doesn't have to clearly spell out and mention it, that he's referring to ideal people. So in short, we know the identity, but we still don't know his condition. Now Ibn Hajar rahmallah says, وَهُوَ الْمَسْطُورِ. So this is according to Ibn Hajar rahmallah. So what Ibn Hajar rahmallah is saying that Majhūl al-hāl and Mastur is one and the same thing. So when two or more people narrate from a person, then you could refer to that person as Mastur, or you can refer to him as Majhūl al-hāl. الظاهر أنه أدرج فيه قسمي مجهول الحال وسمى كل منهما مستورا وإن كان ابن الصلاح وغيره سمى الأخير مستورا لوجود الستر في كل منهما وهما مجهول العدالة. So Ibn Hajar rahmallah is referring to Majhūl al-hāl as Mastur. Now to give them ruling, he says وقد قبل رواية جماعة بغير قيد. There are a group of scholars who accepted a Majhūl without any qaid. So Mullah al-Qari mentions in his commentary minhum Abu Hanifa radiyallahu anhu, that from amongst those who accepted was Imam Abu Hanifa rahmallah. Al-Imam Munawi rahmallah also added the names of Ibn Fawrat, Salim al-Razi, etc. Likewise, Mullah al-Qari rahmallah, he also mentions this here from Ibn Hibban rahmallah, and he quotes from Ibn Hibban rahimahullah. However, with regards to Imam Abu Hanifa rahmallah, we also need to keep in mind that the era in which Imam Abu Hanifa rahmallah lived. Because Imam Abu Hanifa was now amongst Tabi'een, etc. So therefore, Mullah al-Qari mentions it with the word qil. He says, إِنَّمَا قَبِلَ أَبُو حَنِيفَ رَحِمَهُ اللَّهِ فِي صَدْرِ الْإِسْلَامِ حَيْثُ كَانَ الْغَالِبُ عَلَى النَّاسِ الْعَدَالَةِ. That in the initial stages, when amongst you, you look on your right, you see a Sahabi, you look here, you see the Tabi'een, senior scholars, majority of the those engaged in the field are all adil. فأما اليوم فلا بد من التركيز لغلبة الفقه. So and therefore الصاحبين they differ with Imam Abu Hanifa وبه قال صاحباه Abu Yusuf wa Muhammad rahimahullah. So this here is you can see that it's very confined to Imam Abu Hanifa and not necessarily the view within the Hanafi madhab. So to mention the Hanafi view, before that, let's just quickly complete this ibarah. So وَرَدَّهَا الْجُمْهُورِ. So majority of the scholars, they say that no, if a person is Majhūl al-hāl, so you can have even 10 people narrating from this particular person and 10 ideal people narrating from him. But we don't have any one Imam emphatically endorsing him and saying that he is reliable, therefore we will not accept. So they saying that لا تقبل رواية المستور. And the reason they give للإجماع على أن الفسق يمنع القبول فلا بد من ظن عدمه وكونه عدلا وذلك مغيب عنا. We don't know his status, so therefore we cannot accept his narration. So that's the second view. But now Ibn Hajar mentions his preference, and you can see that you don't have to go with Jumhur at times. So you can see he's saying that والتحقيق أن رواية المستور ونحوه. He's saying that the narration of a Mastur and others, مما فيه الاحتمال. When there is doubt like this here, then we cannot very clearly say that we are rejecting the narration. Likewise, we cannot emphatically claim that we are accepting the narration. Rather, we will say that we are leaving it suspended until we get to know the condition of this particular narration. And he says that this here is what Imam al-Haramain rahmallah mentioned. And likewise, what Ibn Salah rahmallah mentioned with regards to a person who scholars just mentioned that he is da'if, but they didn't tell us the reason why they saying he is da'if. So then he's saying that you just make tawaqquf. So on the one hand, you don't accept it, and on the other hand, you don't reject it. You make tawaqquf. So even though he's saying you make tawaqquf, ultimately it will all come back to the same result. Because you remember Ibn Hajar rahmallah mentioned on page 51, وَإِذَا تَوَقَّفَ عَنِ الْعَمَلِ بِهِ صَارَ كَالْمَرْدُودِ. So making tawaqquf and saying that it's rejected equals to both the same. Ultimately it equals to the same. That whether you're saying mardud or whether you are saying tawaqquf. Now coming to the Hanafi ruling, so very quickly to mention the Hanafi ruling, there's one important point to understand amongst the Hanafis. So you can see that Hanafis are that Muhaddithun, they're looking at the amount of narrators. They say one narrator, Majhūl al-Ain. 2 or more narrators, Majhūl al-hāl. Hanafis, we don't even look at the amount of narrators at all. So we look at the amount of narrations of a person. So if a person narrated just 1 or 2 ahadith, he's considered as majhul. If he narrated many ahadith, he's now a ma'ruf. So this is the very big difference. From the definition, we already differ. So now you can't come into Hanafi books and find the word majhul and then apply the ruling of muhaddithin. So if you go to Qaful Athar, he mentions the Ibn al-Hanbali, وَعِنَّنَا أَنَّ حُكْمَ الْمَجْهُولِ هُوَ مَنْ لَمْ يُعْرَفْ إِلَّا بِحَدِيثٍ أَوْ حَدِيثَيْنِ مُطْلَقًا. So a person is only known to narrate 1 or 2 ahadith. سواء انفرد بالرواية عنه واحد أم روى عنه اثنان فصاعدا, irrespective of the amount of people who narrated from him. So this is the first thing which is important to keep in mind. Now the second thing is that coming to the ruling is that إما أن يظهر حديثه في القرن الثاني أو لا. That amongst the tabi'een, in the era of tabi'een, his narration became popular or not. He narrated only 1 hadith, and that narration became popular. So فَإِن لَمْ يَظْهَرْ جَازَ الْعَمَلُ بِهِ فِي الثَّالِثِ لَا بَعْدَهُ. If it did not become very popular within the Khairul Qurun, in the second Qarn, then because it's not popular, so only those people from their students, basically you can put it that way, they can practice upon it. But if it became very popular amongst the scholars, so this person came and he only narrated 2 ahadith, like he came on Twitter and put 2 tweets and then died. So narrated 2 ahadith and then after that nobody knew about him. So, but everybody narrated it and accepted it and no one criticized him. Then in that case, everybody can practice. But again, we'll also have to then look whether it conforms with qiyas. If it does not conform with qiyas, then it will have to be rejected. Likewise, now we look at the condition of that person. Is he known as a faqih or not? So there's all these kind of laws which the Hanafis put. And therefore, it's important to, when passing a ruling in the Hanafi madhab, to understand the Hanafis. So according to Hanafis, we look at the amount of narrations and we don't look at the amount of narrators. Number 1. Number 2 is we look at the era in which it was, the hadith was narrated. Then we look at the popularity which the hadith got. And thereafter, we look at the content of the hadith, whether it goes against qiyas, etc. Based on that, the rulings will apply. So people who just say that Hanafis accept the narration of Majhūl narrators, they are wrong because they are using the word Majhūl according to muhaddithin. But you have one person who narrated 20 ahadith, according to Hanafis, is no more Majhūl because he narrated 20 ahadith. So we are looking at the amount of narrations. Inshallah, we'll continue from here on Thursday. Until then, Jazakumullah khairan.